dudettes, how are you guys? This is Chazzy and welcome back to 8-Bit Chazzy, the segment on this channel where I review the many games that I played over the years, both on and off of YouTube. And today I'm going to be really undertaking a challenge. You know, this is hardcore mode for me, right? It's freaking permadeath mode. It's all of the impossible modes related to gaming, because I'm going to be talking about a game that is very horrifying to me, right? It's going to be very difficult to get through this video, and keep watching, you'll understand why. Because today I'm going to be covering Subnautica, and this game's main genre is a mouthful because it's an action-adventure survival horror game, right? It's all of that rolled into one, man. You know, it's freaking insane, the things that you have to do to stay alive in this game. It was developed and published by Unknown Worlds Entertainment, who I have a bone to pick with. Or rather, should I say, with whom I have a bone to pick with? I don't know. I don't even know, man. Grammar goes out the window when I talk about Subnautica, right? Because this game was released back in 2018 after being in early access, you know, a few years prior. But the reason that it's so hard for me to talk about it is that I have thalassophobia, and it's very severe. It's crippling. It haunts me at night when I'm thinking about the vast ocean just there, calling to me so I can go and perish inside of it and whatnot, right? Now, this game here isn't really bad per se, right? It's actually an amazing game, and the main story revolves around you playing as a character named Riley Robinson, who he has a spaceship, right, that crash lands onto this alien oceanic planet, and you have to explore and survive and stay alive. And the main objectives are basically to gather essential resources for you to stay alive and manage things like hunger and thirst, right? And you also have to survive the local flora and fauna while trying to find a way to escape from the planet. It's very well done. It's really well made, and the game itself was nominated for and even received a few awards. It's honestly, from a gamer's perspective, it is a masterclass, you know, in terms of world building, right? It's really cool, really unique, but because it's single player, right, there's no multiplayer mode, it gets very lonely at times. And because I have such a crippling fear of the ocean, it doesn't always sit very well with me. This was a very hard game for me to play through. I did finish it, and on the Xbox I got 100%. I got every single achievement using console commands. More on that later, but for now let me take a little breather here and, you know, try to not think about it so much while you guys watch a little clip of Subnautica so you can think about it.
5 weeks since the crash. My one task now is to keep us alive. What do we do?
We'll have to use the remaining juice to send a distress call and build whatever gear we can.
Oh boy, that's gonna be a hard one for me to look at in post. I hate the ocean so much. Now, despite this game being, you know, open world, free exploration, free roam, free everything, free perishment, you know, so many things can kill you in this game, it's ridiculous. There is actually a linear story that you can follow, right? Now, basically, a long time ago, there was this spaceship called the Degrassi that crash landed on this ocean planet called 4546b. 10 years after that, your spaceship, the Aurora, crash lands on it, you know, and you soon find out that you're the only survivor. You know, Riley is the sole survivor of the whole crash. There is another ship that tries to come down and rescue him, but it gets shot down by this huge turret laser gun thing, which later we find out is actually the quarantine enforcement platform, because the planet is actually under quarantine because of this bacteria that's spreading throughout the wildlife, so no ship can enter or leave, right? So that's what that defense system is for. Now, you eventually try to disable the cannon once you explore the little alien construction thing there, because there's this alien race called the Architects that built it. Once you find it, you discover that you're also infected, so you can't leave the planet and you can't disable the gun either. And there's this voice that, you know, communicates with you telepathically, which doesn't really make a lot of sense because you assume that you're the only one who's alive in a human capacity on the planet there, right? So Riley ventures deeper and deeper into it, and that's when he discovers the Warpers, which are these creatures that are kind of like the enforcement gang for the quarantine, where they can teleport things further away to prevent the spread of the disease, right? Which is also pretty cool. There's a lot of other things too that go on. You find out about the history about, you know, them and 1,000 years ago, what happened, you know, when the Architects brought something to the planet, and that's what spread the disease and whatnot, I believe. Now, you eventually, as you venture deeper, you discover the Sea Emperor, which is a creature that's been communicating with you telepathically, right? And it's huge, it's massive, and it's there. It was kind of put there because it needed, the hatchlings needed, dang it, it's offspring, okay, needed to harness the enzyme 42 from it so they could cure the disease, but because the Sea Emperor was old and feeble, they couldn't really do that very well, so it was just stuck there until it probably eventually dies from old age. It just passes on, right? Now, it has been trapped in the aquarium there, so our job is to try to not only, you know, solve this problem and actually help the offspring get into the sea and, you know, spread the cure, but also to escape so we can to cure ourselves so we can escape as well. Sometimes the story feels complicated, just like FNAF, but it's actually pretty simple because I'm butchering it just a little bit. I'm trying to do it from memory, but also reading a little bit from my cheat sheet down here, right? So eventually at the very end, you know, the architects, you know, after they vanish, you know, the Sea Emperor gives you a bunch of backstory about it and whatnot, but eventually you do actually release the embryos or whatnot into the sea and the enzyme 42, which does eventually cure not only Riley but the ocean itself. But the Sea Emperor, you know, now finding peace, just gracefully passes away, right? The last of its kind. But he does send one more farewell message to us. Now this is the point where the player can build a rocket and with a lot of resources, and that rocket will take them away from the planet. So that's how the game's main story ends, right? And that's how you beat it essentially. There are a lot of other things there, you know, a lot of other details as well to cover, but that's mostly through audio logs, you know, and data banks that you can collect in the game to flesh out the story a little bit more. But it's actually really nice. There is a post-credit scene though where the PDA notifies the player that you actually can't be allowed to land until you pay off your debt of 1 trillion freaking credits, you know, which is just really, really dumb, right? I guess it's for the use of the ulterior resources and whatnot, you know, but still, it's very cruel. But the game explores this story so well because it is told in a linear way, but can be explored in a non-linear way. And that's what I love about storytelling in games, right? Where you can complete the objective in any way that you see fit. And that's what really, you know, draws players to Subnautica as well. I'm gonna talk about a few more features, but before that, let's take a look at one more accursed clip of the ocean in this game. This game here, man, I have to admit, I gotta give credit where it's due. Despite having a fear of the ocean, right? This game is gorgeous. It is amazing in terms of resource gathering and item crafting and whatnot, right? And you know, the way that you can kind of manage your supplies and the way that you can survive, and you have to actually go out of your way to find food to keep your hunger up and drink filtered water to keep your thirst up, right? Or rather keep it down, no, up, so you don't die of thirst, right? And the way that the game, you know, allows you to freely explore and level up, and also like kind of take your time going through each different biome, which in itself has different creatures and different resources, right? But the thing with this game is that like you can do a lot of things, right? You can gather resources and blueprints and construct tools, build bases, and even submersibles. So there are 2 main vehicles in the game, right? Which are the Sea Moth, the little mini submarine, and the Cyclops, the big submarine, right? And they kind of work in tandem because you can dock the Sea Moth into the Cyclops to leave it charging, which is another really cool thing that makes it more realistic, right? That these vehicles have a charging period, so if they run out of, you know, battery or power, you have to actually replenish them or recharge them, which I think is really nice. And you have to gather materials to craft them as well and keep them, you know, upgraded and whatnot. It's very nice. It's really realistic. And now one of the things that most I believe, you know, gives the game life is the local wildlife, so you can interact with a bunch of creatures as well. Some are hostile, others aren't, but you know, some are big, others are small. Some of the smaller ones are more hostile, some of the bigger ones aren't, right? So you can interact with, you know, all of them, which include but aren't limited to, you know, crab squids, warpers, mesmers, I believe they were called, bone sharks, and also the reefbacks, those really big ones that you see, you know, at the beginning of the game that you think are intimidating, but they're actually not. They're just kind of meh. There's also crashfish and stalkers. Stalkers are the ones that drop the teeth, you know. They're kind of aggravating at first, but apparently you can actually tame them if you feed them some peepers, you know, those little fish with the really big eyes, right? So that's kind of how it is. However, this is the ocean, and there's always a bigger fish, right? In Subnautica, we also have the Leviathan class life forms. including the infamous Reaper Leviathan, which is, I believe, the first Leviathan that every player encounters. At least it was the first one that I also encountered, you know. Every single YouTuber that I see play this game, whether it's like Markiplier or Jacksepticeye or PewDiePie, usually the Reaper Leviathan is the first one that they encounter, and always behind the Aurora. It's always in the same place, you know. And the thing is that, and they also get bigger and scarier. So you have, for example, the Ghost Leviathans that you find out in the Void, which are a lot bigger, and they're called ghosts because they're blue and they're kind of transparent. They're see-through, you know, because of deep sea, you know, stuff and whatnot. There's also the Sea Dragon. There's the aforementioned Sea Emperor, right? The Emperor Leviathan. I don't think they're the same Leviathan, actually. And in the Lost River, which is a place in Subnautica, you actually find the skull of this humongous Leviathan, which we later learn is called the Gargantuan Leviathan. And some psychotic lunatic actually made a mod where they put this damn thing in the game, alive and breathing, and it is huge. There was no reason for it. It was extinct in the game. Stop using mods to make my thalassophobia worse, man. God. Anyway, the majority of the game is set underwater, and there's also 2 explorable islands, which are a lot safer. You know, the islands where you find the alien base and stuff. You can actually build a regular base there next to the alien base. It feels a lot safer, at least for me. So... and there's a day and night cycle, and there are also some eclipses that happen every now and again. So when you start the game up, there are 4 different modes, which is survival, which is the regular mode where your health depletes and your hunger and thirst and oxygen levels as well. So, you know, if you die, you respawn, but you lose items from your inventory, so you have to be constantly gathering resources to stay alive. There's freedom mode, which is almost identical to survival, except you don't have any hunger or thirst meters, so it's a little easier, right? But then you have hardcore mode, which, as the name implies, is not very easy, right? And it includes permadeath, which means that if you die, you know, your entire game file is wiped clean, so you have to start over from scratch. I hate it when games do this, you know. And also, you don't receive warnings of your low oxygen levels or anything, so you kind of have to guess when you're losing oxygen there. There's creative mode, which is the only mode that I play for fun, let's say, which you have all of the characteristics, you know, and everything that depletes, like health and hunger and thirst and oxygen, that doesn't exist, you know. You have unlimited all of them, all blueprints unlocked, so you can build whatever the heck you want without having to gather resources, right? So you start off with good equipment like the stasis rifle, the sea glide, and the mobile vehicle bay, the propulsion cannon. Everything that you take forever to get in the main game in survival mode, you get in creative mode right off the bat, right? You know, every single item, all of the bases, whatever you want to do, vehicles, they are immune to crush depth, right? Because the lower you go, the deeper you go, the more the vehicles can be susceptible to crushing depths, right? Which does make sense. So yeah, man, that's a little bit of it. There's more that I can say, but before I elaborate, let me take a breather here because I've been talking way too much and way too fast. Let's take a look at one more clip.
I wouldn't have believed the creatures that live down here. And what's the point in surviving if we have to kill everything that makes it so wonderful?
The thing with this game is that it was made using the Unity engine, which is a very popular software for, you know, indie game development. So it actually worked out really well. As far as I know, the game world itself is not procedurally generated, right? So I don't think Subnautica is infinite, even though the ocean is vast, right? Because there are certain areas that you can't really access to, like for example the Void, which is it's the scariest part of the game, honestly, right? That's where the Ghost Leviathans lie. But the thing with the Void, and if you know Subnautica, you already know where I'm going with this, right? There is a certain area, a certain region of the Void where the Ghost Leviathans no longer follow you, so you can just keep going endlessly, right? And nobody knows what's out there. Apparently in the game's lore, there are some popular fan theories that that's where the Gargantuan Leviathan lives, right? And it actually has to feed on Ghost Leviathans to stay alive, so that's kind of where it is. But honestly, even if there's actually nothing there, even if the developers themselves confirm that there is nothing in that area of the Void, it's still it's terrifying, because even though you know there's nothing there, it's the freaking ocean, man. It's pitch blackness all around you. Your imagination is enough to give you a heart attack, at least for me, right? Thalassophobians, you know, my fellow ocean fearers out there, you know what I'm talking about. It's really hard. But anyway, the game has a very unique mechanic, right? And that it draws a lot of inspiration from Minecraft, and the way that it's constructed is that you know, the game can be completed in a non-linear structure. You know, the developers actually said something specific, which I'm gonna pull from right here, right? So the game lacks the traditional mission structure, right? You know, the quest structure that you can find in other games of the same genre, and that was actually deliberate to give players even more freedom. And the game is really amazing, but like the colors, you know, especially in the beginning, like when you start the game out, you're thrust into this nice little colorful coral reef with just a few, you know, things swimming around. You know, some of them look like little, you know, manatees or little mini fish or even turtles. Then we see the reef backs are the biggest things that we see close by, but we find out that they're ultimately harmless. You know, you got the stalkers, which are a little bit of a nuisance at first, but after you get used to them and you get your knife, you know, your thermal blade, you know, or even the stasis rifle, which freezes, you know, all of the fish temporarily, so you can go in and do some damage or just run. You know, if I had a stasis rifle, I would freeze something and swim the other direction, you know. So, and it's really nice, man. I really like the way that you can go about and do whatever you want. And I actually really like how if you stay underwater too long, you actually drown because you need oxygen. And as you scan things, you know, with your little scanner, scan things with your scanner, good one, Chazzy, to get blueprints to make new stuff. You can also upgrade, you know, like you have, for example, a prawn suit, which is really useful, and you can use it to traverse the environment and gather resources better and have a little bit more defense against the creatures, right? Although I wouldn't recommend you having a prawn suit and falling into the void, because you just fall infinitely. My God. So yeah, man, that's a little bit of how it is, right? I think that the idea that you can also explore the Aurora, which in the game itself, you know, story-wise, it does eventually explode, and there's radiation everywhere, so you have to upgrade your suit because of that. And now you can go inside the Aurora to scan things, which is a really cool turning point in the main game, right? Where you can get a lot of really awesome blueprints for new vehicles and upgrades and weapons and stuff, right? And also in the main story, if you play survival, that's where you get the blueprints for the rocket in the end, so you can leave. So it's really nice, but there are some places in Subnautica, like for example the dunes, which there are a lot of reapers about, right? Subnautica introduced two very popular phrases into gaming culture, right? Which is the now infamous detecting multiple Leviathan class organisms in the area. No, sorry, detecting multiple Leviathan class life forms in the area. Are you sure whatever you're doing is worth it? Something like that, right? Which the PDA says when you're approaching an area, like for example the dunes with a lot of, you know, reapers around, right? It's crazy. And you may argue that just as bad, if not worse, is when you enter the void and it says entering ecological dead zone, adding data to databank, or adding to databank. Adding some, you know what I mean, right? So these two phrases are now ingrained in my mind forever, and they will give me nightmares for the rest of my life, man. It's freaking insane. But anyway, the game itself, it was actually nominated for 10 individual awards, you know, between 2018 and 2019 at the Golden Joystick Awards, the Gamer's Choice Awards, the 22nd Annual DICE Awards, the National Academy of Video Game Trade Reviewers Awards, and lastly, the 15th British Academy Game Awards. It won 3 of these, which was the Breakthrough Award for Unknown Worlds, right, which I imagine is the one where, you know, an indie game developer makes a breakthrough game, you know. And also PC Game of the Year, because it was released at first for, you know, PC and then later on came out for other consoles. And also fan favorite indie game, right? Now this game here, man, it deserved all of these awards, right? But because my opinion is going to be a tad bit biased, guys, okay, just a little bit, because I am deathly afraid of the ocean. You have no idea how terrified I am. My thalassophobia freaking murders me sometimes. So this game is a masterpiece, okay? It is awesome. And the final finish game, you know, not the early access, but the actual final finish game itself with all the patches and updates, right? It is awesome. But because I'm afraid of the ocean, my final rating for Subnautica is going to be a 9 out of 10. It is amazing, incredible, awesome, a true, you know, gem in the gaming industry, and that it influenced the industry for years to come, you know. But because I'm so afraid of it, I had to knock off just one rating there because I can never play it again. I played it on my channel some years ago at this point. You know, if you want, you can go and watch it here, right? I may have to go back in and trim it a little bit because my editing was a little weird back then, but feel free to go ahead and watch me suffer for a half hour, you know, and it's all good. That's it, guys. You know, this game is now available everywhere on Mac OS, you know, Windows, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series S and X, you know, Nintendo Switch. Go ahead and play it at your own risk, you know. I'm not going to anymore. I'm done. Maybe someday I'll play the sequel just for the sake of getting all the achievements with console commands and also reviewing it here on my channel, but not right now. Anyway, guys, that's it. If you happen to enjoy this video, please go ahead and give it a like and also subscribe to my channel because I release videos every single week. And while you're at it, hit the notification bell too so you can know exactly what time I upload, and it's all good. Subscribe to my other channels, you know, Chazzy Plus, Chazzy Cast, Chazzy Cast BR. The links are in the description and also on my channel itself. They're all over the place now. I have 4 channels, man. I'm freaking MatPat now. I'm the theorist. Alright guys, so this is Chazzy signing out for now, and as always I will see you all in the next video. Roll the final clip if there is one of Subnautica and then the outro screen.